Let's do this! here we are yet again.
Hey,
Oh, hi, Rich.
hello.
How are you doing?
Hi. I'm all right. Just got over COVID. I had the flu. I just got over the flu in the last episode, and now this episode, I just got over COVID. So the
Yes,
timing of it has been really well, I guess, for the
yes,
show.
yeah. You're to do it once and for all. But you sound
Yep.
extremely well, so I'm glad you're much better. Just in time. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah. Just in time.
Yeah. Yes. It's absolutely fantastic to be back and to see all these awesome images that we've received. Um, I can tell that a lot of people are cutting it fine. We had a lot of
Hmm.
uploads towards the last couple of days. But then again, we only had 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
assume that this is the reason why. Hi, Thomas. Shem, thank you so much. Get home, settle in, kick off your shoes, and don't stress. We are here. we'll be we'll be ready whenever you are.
Oh.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Hmm.
Fantastic to have everyone back and to join us for a nice conversation around all sorts of Fujifilm and straight out of camera and all that good stuff. We are.
Yep. And it's still morning here where I'm tuning in from. So it's got the coffee, and we're talking about cameras, coffee, and cameras. I mean, that should be the tagline of the show, But where you guys are tuning in from, it may be mid afternoon or evening or even nighttime. Yep,
I'm
and
boring. Yes. Who else is on the water? Oh, who's on coffee? I'm jealous.
who's on coffee, who's
Yes.
on water, and who's beyond all of that?
Okay. Yes. No
That
ways.
is nice.
Hey, Dad. Congratulations.
Yep.
Great. Excited.
Yes.
Well, it'll have to wait
Uh,
until the
mm-hmm.
show. Will it?
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Mine, we'll talk about it later, but not to
Yeah.
give anything away. But mine hasn't even shipped yet, so
Yeah.
that's
And
lucky me, I guess. But
yeah, I think mine's on a boat or something.
yeah,
I'm not sure if that's. I
no,
technically that's also called shipped, but I don't know.
I guess so. If it's on a boat, it's being shipped, literally.
Literally. We'll see. Yeah, but we'll talk about that more in the show. So let's not
Yep.
get too ahead of ourselves. Although I can see we're all really excited. It's silly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as always,
But yeah, Dan's probably watching the show and unboxing his camera,
I can hear,
plugging it.
yeah,
Yeah,
the rustling of.
the plastics coming off, and the batteries going in the charger and all that stuff.
All that stuff.
Right this moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe he's already charged. Oh, lucky.
Yeah.
He charged his XT4 battery already, so he doesn't even need to wait for the XT5 battery to charge. So he's ready to go already.
Yeah, because it's the same battery.
Yeah.
Yep, new camera smell.
You're making us jealous and
Yep.
enjoying every bit of it, I'm sure.
Yep.
Very good choice, Torsten. Red wine, very good choice. I will join you after the show. For now, water. For everybody's sake.
Yep.
Nice.
That's funny.
We have a trivia question, and I think we had so much fun last week. Listen to me. Last month, last time.
Yeah. 3 weeks ago.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Tab. And so we'll do it again, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
We have a cool okay. All right. We did not know this question beforehand, so we couldn't prepare. The question we would like to ask you is, what was one of Kodak's most famous early slogans coined by founder George Eastman? All right.
That's interesting. I bet Dan knows the answer to this, like right off the top of his head.
Yeah, Dan doesn't have fingers to type any comments right now. He's too busy in the box. Don't drop your new camera, Dan. Yes, but that's really cool. Don't Google it. Whatever you're doing, don't Google it. It's not that serious.
No,
Take a good guess and let us know
there's no
what.
prize.
There is definitely no prize. You'll get a few sound effects, I'm sure, if you get
Yes,
it. But
that is the prize.
yes, it's special.
Hello, David.
Greetings back to you. Good to have you back. Thanks so much for joining in. What do you think the slogan, Kodak's early slogan was? That's interesting. Yeah, it's all
I
Kodak. All Kodak.
I don't have a good guess on this one. Um,
Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know at all.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think it's got to be something about the ease of shooting, because I think that was a big part of what George Eastman was pushing, that he was trying to open up photography to the masses by making cameras that didn't require a lot of skill to operate, and you could just load the film and then have somebody else develop it, so
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
photography for everyone or something like that. I don't know what it might be, but I'm
Mm.
guessing something along the lines of it being like anyone can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool because we were just talking about how we could talk about how this is, how Fujifilm seems to be enabling that for people as well, that there's a
Mm.
trend that more and more people are using the camera linked with recipes to get really cool,
Oh yeah,
even though they don't know anything about photography.
yeah. There was a article not that long ago, just I don't know, a week ago maybe, where uh, social media influencers are using like an X100V, and I found out that they're using the straight out of camera JPEGs and film simulation recipes and that kind of thing, and it's causing the price of the X100 series to go up, because everybody who's watching their videos wants to do the same thing. They don't have a background in photography. They don't have cameras that they're using, just their cell phone or whatever, but they like the results, kind of the analog like results,
Mm.
the ease of it that there appears to be on these TikTok or Instagram videos, and so they're buying these cameras up so that they can use the film simulation recipe, so they can get these results straight out of camera without needing to buy Lightroom and learn how to use software and all that stuff. They can just get it straight out of camera. And
Mm.
then there was a video really recently on YouTube where someone gave their friend, who has no background in photography whatsoever, they gave him an X100V to use for 2 weeks, and studied the pictures. It was really interesting. It was really fascinating. And at the end of it, the friend who had no background in photography wants to go get, and I think he did get an X100V, or an X100F, I think actually,
Yeah.
so that he could shoot with it and use film simulation recipes and that kind of thing. So it's really quite amazing how it is opening up photography to
Mm.
people who otherwise wouldn't be buying a camera or using a camera, because of the prerequisite knowledge and experience and with software and that kind of stuff that you would normally need, but now you don't. That barrier has been broken.
Mm. Yes, and it all started with the famous first slogan of
Of
Kodak.
whatever Kodak was, yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, to think about it then, opening it up for the masses and to how far we've come is quite crazy. Yeah. Are there no any more guesses from anyone? It would be really cool to hear. Don't take it too seriously. Just think about that. I think, yeah, a little bit of background from Ritchie definitely helps to put it into perspective. So Dan says, "You push the button, we do the rest." Okay.
Oh, that's a really good. That's a really
Okay.
good suggestion.
That is. That's Dan putting down his new XT5 to give us his guess. Thank you. We appreciate it. And Ferido, thank you so much for joining in. He says, "You click the button, we do the rest." Okay. Okay. There seems
Oh, maybe that's it.
maybe that's it. Um, sounds catchy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it is along those same lines of it's easy to do.
yeah.
It's you don't have to have this knowledge and experience in photography to do photography.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely.
and I think Polaroid was kind of a similar, idea. The one-step photography. You don't have to have the darkroom experience. And a lot of people are surprised that Ansel Adams was a big fan of that. He wrote a whole book about it, and some of his, couple of his famous pictures, a lot of people don't realize were captured on Polaroids.
Mm. Yeah, that's really cool. It's so nice that you start digging a little. It doesn't matter where you dig in photography,
Mm-hmm.
certain topic. There's always a story behind it. I was talking to Stanley about this earlier, and I find it so fascinating. And I guess that's one of the beauties of photography is that there is so much history on all levels. It's not all technical. There are real stories. There's people that are involved with it, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
beautiful imagery involved. And yeah, no matter which road you take and go down, to quote you, Ritchie, no matter which rabbit hole you go down,
Yeah.
always, there always seems to be an interesting story waiting, which I
Yeah.
find absolutely fascinating. So, Torsten, in Germany, the film roll prices are on film exploded. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that seems to
And
be
I think it's worldwide. Yeah.
yeah, which is crazy. So hopefully, I mean, it's crazy to think, but hopefully there will be more of it coming back, and then
Well, yeah. It seems that I've caused the price of the X100 to become, ridiculous, and maybe I'm causing the price of film to become ridiculous too.
yes, yeah, you need to start to be careful there. You're gonna get back. There's Bo. Hi, thank you so much for tuning in. He says, I know Dutch codex load in. Oh, we. Now I need to speak in my best Dutch. Geef meer maar een Kodak Kato. Would not mind a Kodak as a gift.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
that would be a good gift,
would be absolutely yes, great. I would not mind it as a gift,
Uh-huh.
but thank you for
Thank you for joining us, Bo. Yeah.
this. Yeah, absolutely. And Bo also uploaded some beautiful images. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's been your first time uploading. I'm sorry that I butchered your Dutch, but yeah. Yes, excellent. Are there any more guesses out there? What do you think? What's the most famous slogan? David says, "Buy our film because we're going to make terrible, cheap digital." Okay, that's great.
Yep. There's truth to
Thank,
that.
thank you for that bit of humor. I don't, for somehow, I think this was not really the slogan, but thank, thank you for that. We will reveal it in a few moments, but wait for another couple of guesses. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to think.
Well, it's really interesting to look back at the history of Kodak and
Mm,
Fujifilm and how they transitioned from film to digital, and neither one actually did it well. Um, Fujifilm, Kodak obviously was, they had invented the digital sensor. Uh, Fujifilm made the first fully digital camera. They were pioneers in it, but then because film was just like skyrocketing and the popularity of it seemed to be just like on a steep trajectory up, they kind of abandoned their digital innovations and just doubled down on film, and then film just fell off a cliff. And when that happened, they were both now instead of being in front of the curve,
Mm.
they're now both kind of behind the curve, and they both really struggled. But of course, Fujifilm uh, made some good decisions. They got a new CEO that just decided to really shake things up,
Mm.
and now they're a very successful company, not just in the camera world, but in all sorts of things. And Fujifilm really struggled. I mean, Kodak really struggled, where Fujifilm succeeded.
Mm. Yeah.
Yay!
I think that's a sign for me to reveal the answer to this question. Are you all
Mhm,
ready? Let's see.
mhm.
So, the slogan um, of Kodak's most famous, Kodak's most famous early slogan was "You press the button, we do the rest." So,
Wow.
questions to Dan, and there was one other right guess.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, who was that?
can we get a round of applause for our
Yay!
you? Fantastic. Well done to you.
Ah, I'm
Well,
amazed that two people knew it. That's amazing.
yes, very
Yeah.
good. Well, your guess was right that you thought Dan would know. Um,
Hmm.
he's like right there by the
Yeah,
source.
he is. He is in Kodak country for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And has also submitted um, another image that
Mhm.
that another great image. So if you have not seen that yet, if you missed the slideshow, you can still watch it at the end of the show. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, going back to the slogan, um, it's it's kind of cool. I mean, what does everybody think about that? When you think back on everything that's happened, I mean, we were kind of like stuck. Well, not really halfway, but when I start with photography, it's obviously there's nothing digital. There's if I think back where I've come from, I mean, it's crazy to think that this is where we are now. I mean, when I was thinking back the other day, my very first Nikon camera, Nikon digital camera, was a point and shoot, and the display was like about this big. And I mean, it's amazing that you could even see anything on it, and it was like a really good camera. So,
Hmm.
and
Probably like 3.1 megapixels or something.
if that, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
And I had a 128 megabyte memory card in it, and that
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's crazy. And to think that it all started back then. Dan says Kodak just hired 300 new people locally to keep up with the demand for film. That is great. I think that is.
That is great.
Um,
I'm excited to see the film, industry just booming right now.
yes.
I think it's very wonderful, and it's the only thing that's too bad is that the film prices have gone through the roof.
Mm.
That really takes it out of reach for a lot of people. But hopefully, by them hiring more people, they could produce more film, and that'll increase the supply, which will hopefully bring down the prices a little bit.
Yes, hopefully. It sounds really exciting. So that's definitely
Hmm.
an area to watch. It would be nice. It's just way too nice for it to disappear forever. So
Yeah.
Generation Z keep on taking keep on going back to film. Um, Thomas says, "What about the new app for Android? He has not forgotten."
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Ritchie Cam. Oh, you're talking about the widgets, right? Widgets for the Fuji X Weekly app.
I think so.
It's in the works. That we got. We actually have a lot of projects going on with the apps and app updates, and That's one of them that we're right now working on. So hopefully, I'm really hoping before Christmas that is out.
Excellent. Let's hope that this is what Thomas was after. I remember there was a conversation around that in the last show. So that's cool. So we'll leave Ritchie Cam aside for now.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions, you're more than welcome to shoot them through to us and let us know. Also, warm up your fingers a little bit. We're a couple of minutes away from the main show. But if we don't get to answer your questions now, we will definitely try so during the main show. We have a couple of times when we stop for questions. And if we don't get to them all, for whatever reason, then we will definitely still answer those questions, offline afterwards. And this is really exciting. I'm so happy that we're just about to get going. And
2 minutes.
yes, and that there are so many people that have tuned in already. And we've got a couple of nice, juicy topics to talk about. That's very cool. And Dan, how's that camera?
So we got with less than 2 minutes now. I got a question for you. I was reading this article this morning that was suggesting what the next film simulation that Fujifilm might be working on right now. Obviously, the new cameras have the new nostalgic negative film simulation, but going in future cameras, what do you think the next one will be? Now, his suggestion was that it would actually be an Instax film simulation.
That's really interesting.
And I don't know if there's any, if that's what they're working on or not. I don't think anybody knows. But
yes.
what do the people in the audience think? What do you guys think will be the next one, or what should it be? And obviously, we're not going to be able to talk about that in the pre-show, but we might be able to discuss a little bit in the main show if you guys have some ideas.
Yes, very, very good. You have a little bit of time to think about that, because in our news section we will speak about the new film simulation, and we can expand that a little bit. Absolutely. Good idea. Good question. That's really cool. Dan is patiently waiting for his battery to And while this is all on the go, I think we will say goodbye now, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Yep. See you in a few.
In color. And
yep.
Back. All right.
Let's do this!
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of SOOC, where we talk about everything and anything straight out of camera and all the good stuff that revolves around Fujifilm cameras and getting great results straight out of your camera. If you are new to this to the series, we are looking at Fujifilm recipes that help your JPEGs look absolutely stunning when they come straight out of camera. And in this show, we usually look at one recipe a month that is new that we introduce. We talk about it a little bit, and then we ask you to shoot with that recipe for the coming month and then upload your results and share them with us for the next episode. That is every second Thursday of the month, which obviously we are not on this month around, but we had a little bit of a reshuffling of our dates. So usually this show is every second Thursday of or with us. If you're new, welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in for the first time. If you are back with us and if you've been in the pre-show, it's really cool to see you back. And if so, then you also know that my name is Nathalie and that I am live from Johannesburg in South Africa, where we've just had a major rainstorm, and I'm glad that it's died down for now. And on the other side, we have Ritchie from FujiX Weekly, who is here with us, and we are going to talk about all sorts of interesting stuff together. And let's say hello and welcome to him.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Thank you for tuning in. Oh, yeah, I'm all right. I said this in the pre-show, but for those who didn't catch the pre-show, I had COVID. If you remember the last show, I had just gotten over the flu. Now, for this show, I just got over COVID and feeling all right today.
It's been a bit of a rough ride for you, and
Yeah,
I believe so as well. But you're on the tail end of all of it.
yeah. So how are you doing, Nathalie?
Yeah, all good, all good. I'm glad that this
Mm-hmm.
storm has finally finished. There was like a serious hailstorm out there, and it was quite noisy. But all's good. All is well. We are excited to get this show going, and super excited for everyone who's tuned in and is with us again or for the first time. If you are with us for the first time, please let us know so that we can give you a warm welcome. It's great to have
Yeah, thank you for everybody for tuning in.
Yes, it is. We couldn't do this without you, so it's absolutely wonderful to see you all back or tuning in for the first time. We have a lot of really cool topics to talk about, I think. And it's going to be an interesting show. But if you have any questions or comments at any point, please shoot them our way. Give them to us in the comment section, and we will see that we answer your questions and your comments at any point in the show. Maybe not straight away, but don't stress if we don't get to the question right that very moment. We will get to it sometime later in the show. Just like Bo's question here, he says, do you know of a resource online to determine a slide film from the printing near the sprockets?
There is a resource, and I couldn't tell you what it is, but I know that I have personally used it to find out what film, like when I found like negatives or something like that, and I'm trying to figure out what film it was, because some of them say the film name, and some of them just have kind of like numbers, and they don't actually like tell you, like it doesn't say Kodak Portrait for it. I mean, Kodak Portrait says Kodak Portrait on it, but some of them will have like kind of like a GT 500-3 or something like that, and you're like, well, what is that? So I have found something online. I know it exists, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is.
Okay, so maybe if you find it, you can share that
Hmm.
after the show? That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Rockets are, this is now where language comes in a bit. Is that
Hmm.
those are the holes at the bottom of the.
Yeah, around the holes they'll have printing. They'll have like a almost looks like a barcode or
Yeah,
something on it, and that means something. And then it'll have other numbers, and it'll have the frame numbers and all that stuff. And it'll
correct.
have information of what the film was.
Yes.
Some films actually states very specifically this is the film you used on it, but some don't.
Yes. Interesting question. Thank you. I've learned something there. I've learned a new word and very useful. So let's all go and look for a resource. And then, well, if you do come across anything, if you research some, please do share it with us.
Hmm.
Interesting question. Thank you. So there we go. Shall we jump into our first section in this episode? We have
Hmm.
news to talk about. Just first, quickly, as we always do every month, there is a hashtag campaign that Fujifilm Global is running, and they have a theme every month that they give you in order to give you inspiration to shoot a specific genre or theme for the month. And this month, not surprisingly, the theme is macro photography, and that's obviously linked to the new macro lens that Fujifilm has. They are obviously wanting you to see lots of beautiful macro photographs that you think, ooh, I need to go out and buy that new lens. But it's obviously not necessary to shoot and share the photographs with the new lens, but any kind of macro or close-up photographs that you have, share them with the 10 years of with the 10 years of X-mount hashtag, and they will then get a chance to get features on the global channels. And it's interesting if you are stuck for any ideas to experiment that. But I think we have a lot more exciting news that's all got us in a tailspin over the last couple of weeks that we want to chat to you about. And that is the new XT5 that has come out. And we will hear all about it from Dan.
Yeah.
In case you don't know what I'm talking about, we're just joking. But Dan has let us know in the pre-show that his just arrived this morning. But Farmer has it that way that he was able to unbox it, but he cannot use it yet because he's still waiting for the battery to charge. So we're all still on the same level here. And first of all, we wanted to have a look at the new big sensor, the 40 megapixels. Ritchie, what do you think about 40 megapixels?
Well, I think with resolution, a lot of times you take a step forward and a step backward simultaneously, and so Eric Kim used to famously say, "More resolution equals more problems." Um, so I think if you print very large, like poster size, 40 megapixels comes in handy, right? And if you crop deeply, like if you cut out 30-40% of your picture, or if you do like the Pan-X, the if you do like panoramic crops from your pictures, the 40 megapixels comes in handy. Otherwise, I think for a lot of people, 26 megapixels is already more than you need and more than you use. And so when you have more megapixels, it takes longer to transfer the files. It takes up more room on your memory card. It takes more room on your external hard drive or your cloud storage or whatever you're doing. And it's megapixels that you don't really need. But I think for camera makers, it's a big selling point. It's a big thing that they can market, and people will be like, yeah, 40 megapixels, that's wonderful, and they'll go out and they'll spend the money. So I think there's, for those who need it, that's wonderful, right? That's great. For those who don't need it, it's just, well, it's going to slow you down.
Yes.
What do you think, Natalie?
Yeah, very true words. Yeah, I'm also a little bit hesitant because, speed is and time is always of the essence. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope that the image quality and the rest of the benefits of this camera will outshine the slowing down of everything else that's going to happen. I'm just going to not think about it at the moment, but yes, absolutely. It is something to definitely take into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we will see what the next couple of days and weeks and months hold and what people will, share with us. Dan obviously will be the first one to share his thoughts on this. Sorry, Dan. Today you've got me. You're the
Yeah,
one.
we expect something on your Instagram today,
Yes, all watching. Okay, cool. Yeah, but that's going to be interesting to see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not saying the camera is slow, but like I use the Fujifilm, app on my phone. That's how I, you know, transfer the pictures off the camera. The difference between the XT1 with 16 megapixels and the E4 with 26 megapixels, the XT1 is almost twice as quick getting the pictures off of there.
Mhm.
Uploading them to my cloud storage is much faster. And so with the 40 megapixels, it's going to take longer to download them off the camera, to upload them to the cloud. And I don't think it's going to be like, okay, I'm sitting here for an hour or anything like that. But, if it takes 5 minutes longer here, 5 minutes longer there, over, a month, I've spent, an hour or maybe 2 hours more than if I had been using, 16 megapixels. That's I think where it slows you down, not that the camera is slower or anything like that.
Yeah. Yes. It will have an impact, and we will see what the difference is, and maybe it's negligible. We'll see.
Yeah.
But this is not all that is new in the camera. What is really the most exciting for me personally is the screen. Want to hop, skip, and dance because I was not the flippy screen type. I really wasn't.
Hmm.
And I'm glad I wasn't alone. And now my beloved screen is back. Sorry for everyone who likes the flippy screen. And
Yeah,
the,
there are some who like to flippy screen, but I think and for those people, the XT4 might be a better option. But I think the majority of people prefer on the XT series the three-way tilt screen.
yes, and I think that Fujifilm has finally realized that too. So it's back. It's back in
Yep.
its full glory, and I am super excited about that. It just, yeah, for me, it just really complements how I shoot, and it makes it a lot easier. And yeah, great.
And the funny thing is I've said this a lot in the past, and I've heard other people say it too, is that camera companies tend to, and I think this is tech companies in general, not just camera companies, but just tech companies in general. They'll release something new, and in the process of releasing something new, they've taken something away, and then down the road they bring that back, and it's a new feature. They're able to use that as a marketing. They took it away, and now they're giving it back to you, and they're going to sell a lot of
Yeah,
copies of whatever it is.
yeah,
And I think that's true for this camera.
yes. Well, yes, that's very very thought. What do you guys all think about the screen? Are you in the corner of the flippy screen, or are you with me that you're happy that the three-way tilt screen is back? Let us know in the comments. I'm over the moon. So, you know, I just really don't, I'm just super happy. And so that's definitely a selling point for me. Maybe it is for you too. And that's not all that is a selling point for this camera. Hint. It is not the auto white balance that I'm hinting at, but that is also apparently really enhanced and could be really interesting when we are talking about recipes. Have you heard anything from anyone yet, Ritchie, how this
I
feature may influence recipes of
I
yours?
haven't. I have a suspicion that it does influence recipes in a way. Those recipes that use auto white balance. So if you have an X-Trans 5 camera and you're using X-Trans 4 recipes on it, which it's my understanding from the reports I received that they do work and they're fully compatible and they look the same between the two. But for those recipes that use auto white balance, the new auto white balance, I guess they used artificial intelligence to create it. I don't think there's anything in the camera itself that's artificial intelligence. It was the software they used to program it that was artificial intelligence that was able to better understand different lighting situations and make a white balance that's appropriate, more appropriate for that. So it probably, I would say, it's almost certain that it does have an impact on those recipes in artificial light situations. And I don't know if it makes it better, worse, or indifferent. But certainly there is some impact of some sort.
Yeah. So you will. So do you think that you will go back to reworking those recipes to be better suited to Extron's 5 sensors, or is that too early to ask?
It's too early to know, but I will definitely look at that and see. I will, I'll take a picture with my, XE4, and then I'll take a picture with the XT5 when it eventually gets here, and and compare the two and just see what it looks like. I'll be probably doing quite a bit of comparison, not just with white balance, but with all sorts of things, and just trying to understand what the difference, what are the similarities, and what are the differences between the two sensor generations.
Sounds like a busy season ahead
It
over.
will be.
So I'm not sure if that is a good or a bad thing. But
It's good.
and what's also good is that we have another film simulation.
Yay!
And that's definitely very exciting. A lot of people have been waiting and waiting and waiting. And now it is here in the XT5, a nostalgic neg. And yeah, I believe it is an interesting film simulation. What do you think of it? I mean, for readers who are following your blog, you kind of been teasing that this is the reason why you are getting the XT5.
Yeah, so I don't need the faster autofocus. I don't need the 40 megapixel sensor. I don't need another camera, really. I really have no need for the XT5, but I really want to try the nostalgic negative film simulation and create recipes with it. And I think it'll be very interesting. It's based off of the description that they give on here doesn't, I don't think, really gives it uh, much. It doesn't tell you much about where it comes from, what it's trying to mimic. And it's basically based off of the new American color style of photography. It's going to have a 1970s vibe to it, and it's supposed to kind of have a general amber tone. Um, it'll be interesting to see what that actually means, what that actually looks like. I know some of you out there have already used it. Some people have told me that it is their go-to film simulation. but I've never tried it, and I really want to, and so that's why I bought the camera. And $1,700 is a lot of money to spend on a film simulation. And so I've really been on the fence if I was going to actually go through with the XT5 or wait a little bit longer for like the XT40 or something like that to come out. But I went ahead and got the XT5, and pretty much just for the nostalgic neg film simulation. And the picture you're seeing on the screen with the VW bug in it, that was captured with nostalgic negative. It's the Fujifilm promotional picture, and I don't think it really does the film simulation justice, this particular picture, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they chose it for a reason as a promotional picture.
Yeah, you know what, Ritchie? So we spoke about this in our dry run yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
we're both like, we were not sure what we're thinking of this picture and why that is, and if it even is a great resemblance of that film simulation. And we are kind of both like a little bit lukewarm about this.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking into it a little bit more because I also wasn't really sure about the history of nostalgic negative. And one thing that this show really does is make sure that I get my homework in. In case there are things, that I feel I should brush up a little bit more on. And so I stumbled across a couple of articles that talk about the new American color, which
Mm-hmm.
you're not familiar with, or the viewers are not familiar with, was a photographic movement, and it was quite important in the development of color photography and to put color photography on the map. And I thought that was really interesting to know. And what some of these articles said was that the photographers who started shooting with color, which in the late 60s, early 70s was really not the go-to. Like black and white was the color to shoot on. And color photography was a bit like frowned upon. And
Yeah.
these photographers, they're focused on like depicting general American lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read that, I thought, looking back at this image, maybe this is why they chose this as the image as the lead image for this film simulation. Because I think it kind of like it does have this retro look. It's like, it's not a fancy car, it's a Beetle, but it definitely has, it has a time to it, and the way the lady's standing there with the scarf on the head and the sunglasses and stuff. So I don't know, maybe it's got something to do with that.
Yeah, could be. And I think, oh yeah, nostalgic negative is glorious on GFX. Thank you, Dan. I've heard reports that it is a really nice film simulation, so I really looking forward to trying it.
Yes, yeah. So
But to go back to what you were saying, Natalie, even though Ansel Adams was an early adapter of color film, he's most known for his black and white. He has a book that's just about his color photography. He shot out, Kodachrome slides. In the early days of Kodachrome. It's my understanding he actually worked with Kodak on the development of the second generation of Kodachrome. You have Barry Goldwater shot a lot of color, in those early days. But for whatever reason, in photography, they really shunned the professionals and the experts or whatever. It's kind of like today, where they say if you're serious, you got to shoot raw, right? And in those days, it was if you're a serious photographer, you shoot black and white, right?
yeah,
That was like the thing,
yeah,
and you couldn't, if color wasn't taken seriously by the serious photographers for the most part,
yeah,
especially art critics and magazines and all that kind of stuff. If you were a real photographer, you shot black and white,
yeah,
And so like you said, in the late 60s and early 70s, there was this movement to push back against that and say, no, color is a legitimate form of photography that professionals can use, and it has its place. And of course, now color photography is much more common than black and white.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I just thought it was interesting. I really did not know that, but there are a couple of articles. So if you want to read up a bit more, I can only recommend it. A very interesting reads indeed. Another rabbit
Mm-hmm.
down to. Excellent. So yeah, so these are what we think are the most exciting features, you know, to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there's lots and lots more to explore, and I am sure we will read all about it on your blog in the coming
Yep.
weeks.
I'm sure I'll have something.
Yes. So what do you all think about that? It's gone awfully quiet out there. We think we need to, get you back in the conversation here. If you don't know, or if you do know, it's been released in black and in silver. So we would like to know from you which one you think is the better looking camera, which one you will be or would be or want to get. Is it the traditional black or is it the silver? So we have a poll, people. We're shooting a poll at you, so keep a lookout in the comments. We would love to get your input to see which one is the favorite, because I think that in this particular iteration, Fujifilm's really pushing the silver
Mm-hmm.
a lot more. This whole photography first and retro look and whatever is obviously very prominent with the silver. So I think.
Oh,
Hi.
yeah. Hi, Patrick. Thanks for tuning in. It's quite, yeah. It's quite an honor for you to
Yes,
join us, and it's got to be pretty late where you're at. So appreciate you taking your time to join us today.
absolutely. Thank you. A bit speechless there, but great that you are. We're so on the pulse on this date. I love it. So exciting. So he's got a silver XT5, a
Hmm.
bit more vintage. That's great. Yes, that's my thinking as well. It's just a little bit more
Yeah,
vintage.
I love the silver, and if you know anything about my cameras, they're silver.
Yes.
So it should come as no surprise to anyone that I went with the silver edition. I just love it. I just absolutely love it, and I know that they kind of get dings and scratches a little bit more easily, but I like the character of that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, my XT30 is just it's silver. It's got all sorts of scratches on it, but it actually makes me like it more because of that.
You know where all those scratches were made. Um,
Yes.
and then we have someone here with an XT3 that was silver. Yeah,
Oh, it's
and
XXT3.
yes. And Dan says he went black so that his wife wouldn't realize he bought a new camera.
Yeah, well,
Very
the black, it's a little bit more camouflage, so I guess that works in Dan's favor here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Torsten prefers black. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So the X100 series. Now I need to be careful, but I think the X100S only came in silver. I don't think there was
Mm,
black version. And this was the first Fujifilm camera that I had. And yeah,
okay.
absolutely loved the retro look. And then from the X100T, they introduced the black one. And to me, it was just like, it looked completely wrong. And then further down the line, when I started on the XT2 in the T series, no, that's not true. We had an XT1, and I think the XT1 also only came in black. I think so. And so the XT series for me was a black series. It's a new black finish. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's more black. I think that's what I heard. I mean, Dan could probably tell us since he has it in his hands,
Yes,
but
sure he can.
but that's my understanding. It's like a deeper black.
Hello, Kai. He says, is the silver more resistance as the DT3 silver? I think he means the XT3 silver. So is the XT5 more scratch resistance? I think that's how I understand this question. I hope so. I am not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, but
Yeah. So the black looks too professional. Yeah. So it's interesting because so this is where my whole long blurb was coming to, is that I always thought that the T series is the black series, and that's the serious working professional look of the camera. And yeah, so all my working cameras were black models, and then I had the X100 series as my play camera, and that was the silver one.
it would be interesting to look back and see, like, because I know, like, as you get into like the 90s and maybe even into the 80s, I think a lot of the SLRs were black. But if you go back to like the 70s and the 60s, there was a lot of silver ones. So I wonder like when that changed and how that changed the perception of it. Yeah, black is sleek and sexy too. I agree. I do have a couple of black models, the XT1, X Pro 1, that come to my mind, that they do have a nice kind of sleek, more I guess professional, as it's been said, look to them. But my heart goes to silver. My vintage heart
Yes.
chooses silver. Yeah.
I think the viewers are very torn from just judging from the comments, and
Yeah.
I was really struggling to make up my mind. I was really struggling because of what I just shared. But so we'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure how we are doing on the poll front. And so I think we can look at Dan's comment in the Flippy screen. He says he likes Flippy just so my nose isn't sliding around on the back screen. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say the one thing you can do with a flip screen that you can't do with the three-way tilt, and I don't think this gets mentioned enough, is that you can mount it backwards, like almost like an X Pro 3 has the backwards mounted screen. Of course, it has the little screen, which I think is cool. But like on the XT4, which I would show you, except for that's what I'm using to record this. So, the screen can actually you flip it out, you twist it, and you flip it back, and then it's backwards, and you don't have a screen. And that's how I would use it. Of course, the XT4 is my wife's camera, not mine, and she's gracious to let me use it for the show. Yeah, I mean, if it was my main camera, if I had that, that's how I would use it. And really, any camera, if it had a backwards mounted screen, I would use that. I'd close it up and not even have it displayed. Only when I need to use it would I pull it out. And that's kind of what's neat about the X Pro 3, which I believe you have, Nathalie, right?
The X Pro 3, yes, yeah. It's neat, but I still miss that I can, for overhead shots, it's really difficult sometimes. So I can't wait for that. Sorry, I don't know your name, so it's CH40S. There was some times where I ran into problems with the tilt screen. I haven't had XT1 to 3, the X100V, the GFX 150R. I had no problems adapting to the XH2 body with the screen. So yeah, sure. I mean, it's got its place. There are a lot of people who are happy with it, who would prefer it over a 3-way tilt screen. Absolutely. This is why they make both of them. It's just, you know, I prefer the 3-way tilt screen. Bo says the 3-way tilt screen and all the dials and the D-pad and joystick and IBIS sounds like the perfect photographer's camera.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't get rid of the 4-way directional pad. I thought Fujifilm was moving away from that, and so I'm really glad to see that they kept it on that camera.
Yes, yeah. The greatest comeback of the century, absolutely. Yes, I'm with you there, Torsten, absolutely. Alrighty-o, and this is the XT3, people. The XT3. I'm thinking of the poll and whether it's coming or not, and that gets me sidetracked. Sorry, guys. But you can still let us know in the comments. I think, yeah, I have the feeling we've got like a 50-50 situation here. But no doubt, they're both beautiful looking cameras.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yes. And I have another idea. Since we don't seem to be able to get those polls going after all, this is live. You all know anything can happen when we're live, and it usually does. So we'll do something else. I'm going to tell you about another thing I'm really super excited about, and then we can maybe extend the poll over to that. And that is the fact that YouTube has been enabling of what they call community, which obviously we think is really cool, because it totally is resonating with what we're doing here, right? And so they have enabled the community tab. Ecstatic. So this last couple of weeks felt like one birthday after the next with all these great announcements. And this community tab enables us to have more conversations, to run some polls, which is, you know, how I came to that. And so it's another tab on the channel where you can go, and there are a couple of posts on there already. And it's really great for quick polls and also for some posts, and then we can have conversations around topics, especially in line with the different live streams and the different episodes and certain topics that we were talking about. So I think that's really cool, and that can help us in conversation. And I will definitely run the black or silver poll on there right after the show. And then you can let us know there which one is your favorite. And I hope you are as excited as I am.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this whole show is about community. You know, our websites are about community. You know, Fuji Rumors, you know, is about community. There's a community aspect around Fujifilm cameras that just doesn't seem to exist for other brands. It's pretty unique, I think. And so anything that fosters that community is a great thing. And so, you know, I'm super excited that they opened up that tab for you and that you're able to use it. And I hope all you guys watching, go over there, check it out, you know, after the show, and you know, give some things a thumbs up, you know, maybe type a comment, you know, or two, and just participate in that in some fashion.
Yes, and if you have something. I've just heard that apparently the polls are there, so my apologies. Apparently I can't see it on my phone where I'm checking YouTube, but apparently the poll is there, so that's great. Thank you. And sorry for the confusion. And yeah, that's great. So if you can vote, that would be awesome, and then we can get the results. They will show up in the comments as well. So it's the first time we're doing this, so it's a little bit tricky, but yeah. Anyway, Lynn says, thank you for making this available, Ritchie. Love it a lot. Great. Whatever it is.
Well, thank you. Probably the film simulation recipes, I'm guessing, or
Yes.
the app.
That,
You're very welcome, and I'm just happy to be able to give something to the community, and be a positive aspect to photography. And I never imagined that what I do would have such a large impact. And so I'm really just honored and grateful for all you guys, for being there, for using the recipes and all that kind of stuff. So much appreciated.
thank you, Ritchie. It can't be said often enough. And just a quick look live on the community so that you guys know a little bit better what it looks like. So this is an article, and it goes chronological, but you can go back to all the different posts. So there are posts in here, and I can post links as well. So that's really cool, so that you can cross-reference to... I don't know what's going on now. There we go.
It's a phone within a phone.
Yeah. Okay. And here are these polls, and there are different options that you can vote, and you can comment on it. And I think it's a really cool interactive tool to use to stay in touch in between the weeks and weeks of no SOC Live. And you can, let me know what you would like to chat about and so forth. And I will, keep on posting. So you'll just have to tune in once in a while and check it out. And and gets that conversation going. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. And I hope you guys are too. I'll see you over there.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Nathalie. That's really great.
It's a great pleasure. All right, and next up, we are going to... What are we doing? We are going to give you a tip of the day. As always, we have something that we think will help you in getting even better results from your camera, your in-camera JPEGs. And these can be anything from in-camera settings, understanding a little bit better what the recipes are about, how they are affecting the JPEGs. And today we thought we will look at something a little bit different. And that is if you want to take your photography even further. Thank you, Dan. Sorry, Thank you. And so if you think, you're down with those recipes, you're using them a lot and you're quite familiar and you know what they do and whatever, and you feel like you want to extend that a little bit further, there are accessories that you can use. And since, the time for presents and giving and all that is coming up, we thought maybe this could be a really nice stocking filler for you. Hint, hint. So we would like to talk a little bit about diffusion filters, and we want to pick Ritchie's brain as to a couple of the details, because it's another one of those rabbit holes. You can really get lost in all the different things that are on offer, different kinds of filters and versions and strengths and so forth. So in general, what a diffusion filter will do is make your image look more like analog and take what they say, the digital edge off it.
Exactly. Diffusion filters, they've been around a long time. They've recently became popular in photography, but they've been used in cinematography for ages. What it does is it takes and bends a little bit of the light that comes through, and there's different strengths, and depending on the strength of the filter you have depends on how much of the light that it will bend, and it generally affects highlights more than than anything else. So there's different brands. Probably the two most popular are Black Pro Mist and Cinebloom by Moment. Those are probably the ones that people use the most. I have both. Dan Allen, he really likes the 5% Cinebloom. I agree. That's my go-to. It's their weakest one, and I think a lot of times subtlety is better. Less is more. But I mean, they can be a lot stronger than the 5%. Black Pro Mist, I don't typically like that as much as Cinebloom personally because it adds a little bit of a color cast to your pictures. However, with that said, I do have a film simulation recipe that specifically calls for using a Black Pro Mist filter because of that color cast. So it's called Codenag if you're looking for that in the app. There's different brands. KNF, 1/8 strength. I think 1/8 is good. 1/4 is kind of maybe pushing it a little bit. The previous picture with that had that open sign was with a 1/4 Black Pro Mist. This picture here is actually with a Black Pro Mist and Cinebloom together to really just give it a crazy look with those lights. But it takes the digital edge off. It blooms the highlights, which you can see in this picture. They're very bloomed. It lessens the overall contrast of the image a little bit. It affects highlights the most, but it does also affect the shadows and midtones and everything. And to a small extent, it smooths skin tone. So if you want to not show the wrinkles quite as much or something like that, it helps a little bit with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so Ultra Flash one here uses the 5% for everyday use and the 20% for when he really wants to bloom those highlights or big impact stuff. And I agree with that. That's a really good suggestion on how to use it.
Yeah, so it seems like there are a lot of people on this trend already, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Robert says that Cinebloom is not easy to get. I agree. I'm sitting in the same boat, even though I'm very far away from Germany, but also very far away from the States. So it's really difficult to get your hands on. But any diffusion filter in general is a great start. And Black Pro Mist I think is very widely available. And I think there are also some other brands around the world that offer similar kind of effects. And sorry.
I do talk about it a little bit in that article that we just threw up there. After the show, if you want to read that one, I guess I got a few different articles that discuss it a little bit. It's the QR code that you see there on the screen will actually take you to an article that I wrote, 7 tips for getting an analog look from your digital camera. And I believe it's tip 3 is using diffusion filters, and I explain it a little bit. So if you want to take a screenshot of that QR code and then after the show, read the article if you haven't read it already, you can do that. And the other thing I wanted to mention with this is that in the newer cameras, the X Pro 3 and newer, they have a setting called clarity. And some of you are probably very familiar with that. But a negative clarity setting works kind of similarly to using a diffusion filter. It's not exactly the same. It's not completely the same, but it does produce somewhat similar results. So you can use that in lieu of a diffusion filter, or you could use a diffusion filter in lieu of clarity when it calls for minus clarity, because clarity does slow the camera down.
Okay, that sounds like lots of options to play around with and experiment. A very exciting field to get into, maybe a little bit daunting in the beginning to really find out what works. But like Ritchie says, less is more, just to get there are a lot of interesting articles on Ritchie's blog, so do make use of all that resource that's there. And let us know what you think, and share. Oh, so
Yeah.
the correct URL, the QR code is the correct article. If you don't want to do any of that, if you're stuck, you can just go to Ritchie's blog and you just search for filters, and then there are a couple of articles that will come up.
Yeah. There's a Creative Collective article for those who are part of the Creative Collective that talks about stacking diffusion filters. You use like 2 or even 3 of them at the same time to get kind of wild results. So if you're looking for something fun to try, something a little different, that's something to take a look at.
Okay, excellent. So there is also the link. It will be in the comments, so you can go and check it out there. And I will also make sure that I post it in the community, so you can go back to it later.
Oh, thank you, Nathalie.
And yeah, that is diffusion filters, a new thing to get into and to keep you busy with, and ways to spend your money. And but we also want to talk to you about some more recipes. And this time around, a lot of people have been asking for black and white recipes. So we thought, let's start out with giving you a selection to get an iconic black and white look with these, to get you going. So we have a selection of 4 recipes that we picked that are suitable for all the different to practice for that next sensor series of recipes that will come next year. Hint, hint.
Maybe before the end of the year.
Okay, yes.
We'll see.
Yes. So we obviously have to start out with Kodak Tri-X 400, a recipe that we have also talked about in its own show. That's how we started season 2. So if you haven't seen that show, make sure to go back to that one. But it's brilliant. It definitely is the iconic recipe of
Yeah,
black.
Kodak Tri-X 400 is not just my favorite black and white recipe. It's my favorite recipe, period. And if I, and I love black and white at heart, it's what I learned photography on in the early days. It was being in a lab, developing my own negatives, printing my own prints, and all that kind of fun stuff, to smell the chemicals. And it brings back those memories. I obviously don't do that no more. I've considered putting in a lab in, the house somewhere, but never done it. But if I only could shoot in one recipe, if I was limited to one, this is the one I would pick. I just absolutely love it. There's, if you look in the article, it tells you how to modify it for the XT3. Well, the recipe is published on the website as for the X Pro 3 and newer cameras that have the new features, but there's modifications for the XT3 and XT30, as well as modifications for X-Trans 3. You can also find those in the app. I set it up in the app so you could find it for the camera that you have. So if you have an X-Trans 3 or newer, you can actually use the Kodak Tri-X 400 film simulation recipe. So it's very versatile in that way. But this is my choice. If you're going to shoot black and white, this is the one. This is the recipe. And now you got to try and follow that up, Nathalie.
Well, yes. So it is really cool, and I loved shooting it as well. And obviously, because of the history and it being Kodak Tri-X 400, it is absolutely fantastic. But my vote goes on the X-Trans 4 sensor choice goes for Ilford Ortho Plus 80. When I was shooting film, when I was shooting black and white film, Ilford was the thing for me. That was the name to shoot black and white. To this day, it still has a very high standing in anything to do with black and white film photography and photo paper, etc., etc. So I thought when we introduce black and white recipes, we can't do without an Ilford. So I chose the Ilford Author Plus 80. I hope you'll have a lot of fun with it if you have a newer Extrans 4-sensor camera. But if you don't, then you can use any of those two, either an Agfa Scala or a monochrome red for Extrans 3 or Extrans 2 cameras.
Yes.
They're all really cool black and white results, so you don't need to feel like you're left out or anything.
Yeah, Agfa Scala is a really good one for X-Trans 3. And monochrome red is a good one for X-Trans 2. And I think you can use it on X-Trans 1 or Bayer as well. It'll produce very similar results. So no matter what camera you have, there's a recipe, black and white recipe there for you.
Hey,
and Kai...
comment there. Yeah, he says, I like that Fuji X Weekly has recipes from other people, like Captain Look from Germany. The app is an awesome digital Fuji cookbook. Now, isn't that an awesome and great stuff?
Yeah, and the Codex Trax 400 recipe, I didn't actually create that one. Anders Lindborg did. And Captain Look, he's let me publish a few of his recipes on the website and in the app, and it was very kind of him to do that. His name is Emmanuel Sanders, and we've been able to do that a few times. So it's been really neat. Yeah, there's definitely a couple handful of recipes that I didn't create that are in there, or even more, a couple handful more recipes that I collaborated with somebody. We worked together, to make the recipe. So it's always fun to do that, and I'm glad that I never publish recipes that other people create that I don't have their permission to do it. I always want make sure that they're okay with it and that they're giving me permission, and so it's always fun to bring these recipes to the community.
Yes. Wonderful. And a great to be here. I think what this slide means is that we have results on our poll. But first, Stephen says, from a vintage camera standpoint, black models are much rarer and today typically carry higher prices.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Stephen.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, all this talk around color, how crazy. Yes.
Well, black and silver seems appropriate that we're talking about black and white recipes too, so.
Yes, very true. Tarzan thinks, I don't think any camera manufacturer can get the silver of a body as good as the original vintage cameras. The new silver ones always look too much like plastic. Okay, yeah, well, I guess it all needs to be still affordable. So, yeah, so we live in the 21st century, so we have to live with compromises. But
it makes me wonder, and I never really paid attention to this, but I think the vintage silver cameras aren't painted silver. It's that they don't have paint on the metal.
Yes.
And I think with the Fujifilm cameras, it's generally that the metal is, or the body is painted that color. So that's probably why it looks a little different.
Well, yes, and also the old vintage cameras weigh a ton compared to cameras.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
Yeah, so
I have a Fed Russian rangefinder that just weighs a ton. I mean, it's like a brick. It's really heavy.
The weapon. Kai also says that he likes the white letters and numbers on the black surface, but he prefers the option. Yes. Yeah, it's very eye-catching. Yeah, there's something for everyone. And Patrick says, in terms of the rangefinder Fuji, this is my theory. Rangefinder X cameras with OVFs look better in silver. and the X cameras with EVF look better in black. Okay. That's kind of a little
I
bit
can see that.
Yeah. That's a really well formulated way of my convoluted explanation that I had earlier when we were talking about it. Thank you for putting it so succinctly. Great stuff. And now we're back on the filters, and Dan says that he loves the Cinebloom 10% with a +2 in highlight and shadow adjustments. That's cool.
Okay, yeah.
It's nice that you're all experimenting and playing around with it, or
Yes.
using them.
And sharing your tips and experiences here on this show. So that's really great.
Yes. Okay, and then we have a comment from Torsten. He heard from an old photographer that they used to smear Nivea cream on a UV filter and get cool effects. Well, interesting that you say that, because Ritchie over here had an experiment of a similar kind recently. I don't know if you used Nivea cream. Maybe that were
No.
photographers in Germany who did that, but I believe that is definitely true.
Yeah, that or Vaseline, that was something that was used sometimes. But what I did, and I think it turned out all right. And if you're not sure you want to get a diffusion filter, this could be a cheap way to decide if this is something you want. But if you take a little bit of oil, like if you take like a little Pam spray oil, cooking oil, and you put it on a paper towel and you wipe it on and you pretty much wipe it off. You just want to leave a very tiny amount of residue, about the same amount as if you left a fingerprint on it, about that much. So very little, just the slightest amount of oil left on there and on a UV filter, and you shoot with that. It's very similar to using a diffusion filter.
I found that really a really interesting experiment. So yeah, worth a try. Or a little bit of Nivea cream if you have that. But a really interesting trick. So many interesting tips today. You guys are roll. That's great. Thank you so much. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's
Images.
great.
We have had you shooting on Fujifilm Sensia 100 for the last couple of weeks. And we showed the viewer slideshow in the beginning of the pre-show, and we'll show it again at the end of the main show. So if you've missed it in the beginning, then okay, sorry, we have the result of the poll. So the poll of whether you like black or silver. On my channel, 66% like black and 33% like silver. I'm glad I didn't see that before I made up my mind. Because it'll be like, now what? And I'm sure Ritchie's result will come through just now as well. And while we're waiting for that, and for the very busy people behind the scenes who are doing a great job of keeping that show running, the poll on Ritchie's channel is 43% like black and 56% silver. So
That's interesting.
yeah, I mean, I kind of like thought that this was this was the case, just judging by the comments that you made. Hard facts. So thank you everyone for watching. And this is cool. This is interesting. So I film had an inkling there and got it right by pushing the silver more than it has. At least it feels like it's pushing it more than it has in previous iterations. So excellent stuff. But back to our recipe Fujifilm Sensia 100 that you've all been shooting with. And you've submitted awesome images. And as always, we pick out a few that we look at so that we can show you a little bit of what we particularly like in a recipe. Bo says he was trying to find his Sensia slides, but he gave up. So Bo,
I did that last month. Or 3 weeks ago. I was trying to find them and I couldn't, and I gave up.
Same. Yeah, but we don't need those anymore because we have an awesome recipe to look at. And let's see what everyone's come up with. Before we go there,
We're waiting for that and for
the very busy people behind the scenes who are doing a great job of
so
keeping
we
that show
have
running.
Patrick with a comment here.
The poll on Ritchie's channel is
I'm not
40
sure if we are all hearing the sound or if it was just me. It's
I
gone.
heard it.
Yeah, I was hearing myself from a couple of minutes ago, so sorry about that. But it's gone. There was a comment from Patrick, but I think in the fright that the sound made, the comment was gone. So sorry, Patrick. We'll get up. Yeah, that was a big me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's live. What can we say?
Yep.
Let's have a
Yep.
look at
And
the images, though, shall we, Ritchie?
yeah, so Carl Reef had, I hope I didn't butcher that name, had submitted this picture. It's very simple, you know, the fall leaves on the ground with the light kind of backlighting it, and it's very simple in that there's not a lot of different colors. Like a lot of times we show pictures that have like multitude of colors in it, and this one is just like, you know, one color. But it just shows how the recipe. What I liked about it was how it shows how the recipe handles not only that color but that backlighting situation, and I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's the simplicity that makes it really special.
Yes.
Very much for another awesome image call. Thank you. But we didn't have a shortage of submission of nice images. So the next one was from Enrico. He sent us this cool picture that shows how this recipe also handles blue really nicely. I'm not 100% sure what we're looking at, but the blue is really nice. So yeah, it's not only the pinks and the reds that where this recipe shines. So thank you for your submission, Enrico.
And I also want to point out, like we do every week, that because of the limitations of the software that we use and the YouTube compression and all that stuff, it appears that the highlights are just blown out, and that's not the case. You just have to imagine that the highlights are not blown out, because in reality they're not.
Yes, thank you.
And Matt Crace had submitted this picture of the beach, and we chose this one just because we like the beach, and sorry, for no other reason. You know, where, you know, it's a beautiful scene, and you see how it's the recipe handles overcast skies, and if there's anything to take from it, it is that. And then now I really want to go to the beach. So thanks, Matt, for submitting the picture.
Yeah, it's such an inviting scene, so it's really nice. And Robert, thanks. I'm glad that we've got a lot of people who like this recipe. That's really cool.
Thanks, Robert.
I think it's a really nice one, Ritchie. Thank you. Here's Richard, who sent in this image, and I thought just a really nice display of all the different shades of red and pink, and in general, a really interesting scene, a very nicely captured image. Yeah, a study of red and purple.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you can see how those colors are handled by this recipe, and, you know, especially that window light. You know, it's very lovely.
Yeah, it's stunning. Thank you, Richard.
And it turned out with our discussions today that this was an appropriate picture to pick, submitted by Dan Allen, who, of course, is from the hometown of Kodak. And what caught my attention is that it has, the leaves are falling. Like, those aren't photoshopped in there, you know, they're actually falling as the picture is being captured. And you can see how this recipe does in the fall environment, which, of course, we saw also earlier. But you know, it turned out to be a very appropriate picture with the discussions that we had in the pre-show and now in the show and stuff.
Yeah.
So thanks, Dan, for submitting this one.
Yes. Yeah, excellent. I love those leaves. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And then we have this absolutely phenomenal portrait from Simon. So I was super excited to see that, and so very well executed. Absolutely lovely. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, just a really, really well captured image.
Well, and what's interesting, and we're not critiquing or anything, but the lighting, is very like split, like bright on one side and dark on the other. But what Simon executed very well is having a little light on that eye, that left eye in the dark section of it. The picture would be so much different if that wasn't the case. But because Simon has that light just barely in the light there, that really makes it stand out.
Yes, Rembrandt would be proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your submission, Simon. It was really lovely to see. And then we have one more image, and that we think is, really encapsulates the way the recipe shines particularly well. It's like Ritchie says, and like we always repeat, please by no means a critique of the actual image. We are not interested in that. We want to showcase how the recipe creates various JPEGs and what you do with them. So, and really interesting and very dynamic image by Bo. And
yeah, it's got great, leading lines, and you have this like contrasting elements. It's just really fascinating, really well put together. I love the right side kind of leads you in, the bottom leads you in, and then the left side kind of leads you up. It's interesting.
Yeah, so if you catch yourself that the eye keeps on wandering around all over the image, it's probably because it's an interesting image. So this is what it does to me. So well captured. Thank you both. And if you're new here and don't know about this yet, all the images submitted, not only these ones, but every single one of them will, everyone who submitted will stand up for a draw a little bit later. So do stick around and see if you may have won yourself a 12-month subscription to the awesome Fuji X Weekly app.
And thank you to everybody who submitted. And I love seeing your images. We played them at the very beginning of the pre-show. We'll play them again at the end of the show. So if you missed the pre-show, stick around to the end to catch them at the very end of the show.
Yes, stick around. Because there's more to come. And first up, we want to introduce the next recipe for the next show. And, in the spirit of Kodak, which seems to be, there's like so many elements to the show today. We have chosen Ektachrome 100SW, which comes in 2 variations. So a lot more people, or we try to make sure that we choose recipes that everyone can shoot. So there are different versions. One is on the app called Kodak Ektachrome 100SW, and the other one Ektachrome 100SW.
Yeah, and the Ektachrome 100SW is for X-Trans 2, and the Kodak Ektachrome 100SW is for X-Trans 3. However, it is fully compatible with the XT3 and XT30 simply by setting color chrome effect to off. Or if you have an X Pro 3 or newer, then you also additionally have to set color chrome effect blue to off, clarity to 0, and pick a grain size. I would suggest small.
Exactly. And before we go any further into those details, I think we should look a little bit at the history of it. And we were talking about slide films and digging for slide films earlier. And Ritchie wasn't successful with the Essentia, but he was successful with Ektachrome. So this image here that we were looking at is an actual slide that Ritchie shot a while back.
Yeah. So I captured this. If you don't recognize the location, it's the Grand Canyon. I captured this in the year 2000 on actual Kodak Ektachrome E100SW film, 35 millimeter film. It was the camera was a Canon AE1, and I'm pretty sure it was a 50 millimeter lens that I used. And it just so happens that I had this slide scanned a few years back, and so I was able to share it with you guys today.
Yes.
I don't really scan a lot of my slides just because I don't have a good slide scanner, and you know, sending it off for somebody else to do it is expensive. So I don't do it nearly as often as I should. But thankfully for this episode, we had one available.
Yes. And we're going to look at it a little bit bigger as well, because I think it's an absolutely fantastic capture. It really has so much depth to it that, yeah.
And this was in the middle of the day. It wasn't sunrise or sunset or anything like that. It's midday. The Grand Canyon, if you do go there and it is like golden hour, evening or morning, you'll notice a lot of shadows in the canyon, and it can be hard to. You could use that to your advantage, but it also can be hard to see the details of the inside. If you do want to photograph the details of the canyon itself, the problem with midday lighting is obviously it's harsh. It's going to look kind of flat because there isn't the shadows to give it the contrast. And generally that light is less warm. And so what you notice with what the film did is it added the contrast that was needed. It added the warmth that was needed to be able to capture this picture.
Yeah. Well, absolutely fantastic. I wish I had been there on the day, like a really good day to take photographs.
Mm-hmm.
A good time. But yeah, we just wanted to share this with you to just give you an idea of what the aesthetic of the actual film was like, and we have the luxury to do that. The recipe simulates this, and yeah, so we are going to experiment with this for the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also just came across is that Kodak actually re-released this film in a similar version, so that is available again.
I hadn't heard that. They made a new version of it.
Yes, they re-released in October 2019. I made that note so that I wouldn't forget. They made
Well,
Ektachrome 100D, and that is
100D.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, I hadn't heard that one. I knew they had E100, but that's different because there's been, I think it's nearly 50 emulsions over the years that have had the Ektachrome name, and some of them are much different. And I think there was, after they discontinued the 100SW, which the SW stands for saturated and warm. So it's a more saturated, more vibrant version, and it's warm, has a warmer cast. And of course, Kodak is always known for their warm cast in their film, but Ektachrome in general didn't have as quite as warm cast as, let's say, Kodachrome or some of their other films. But this was their warmest version of it. And then it was replaced by Ektachrome 100. I believe it was GX that came after this. And it was kind of the SW version was kind of sold as a professional film for professional photographers. The one that followed it was more maybe marketed towards the hobbyist or the general photography, and not so much the professional crowd. And I don't know if that makes sense, but you said 100D they made. I'll have to look into that. I didn't know that. I was completely unaware.
Yes, and while we're on the topic, we have another poll that we have just opened, because we would like to know if you have not or will be shooting actual film. So you can give us your vote there, and we'll look at the results later. And Stephen says he has slide trays after slide trays full of Ektachrome 100 slides. It was his favorite to shoot in the Caribbean with dark blue skies and deep green foliage. Yeah, I can only imagine.
First of all, I'm jealous that you got to spend so much time in the Caribbean, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, Ektachrome was, you know, a very common film, slide film, very popular. It did have issues with like long-term stability. It had a nickname, Fadachrome, that, you know, some people gave it because it had a tendency, if it wasn't stored correctly, to have a short shelf life after development. But I'm assuming that Stephen and his slide trays, they're probably stored in a dark place, so I'm sure they're very fine.
Yes,
But yeah, I'm very jealous of being able to do a bunch of photography in the Caribbean. That sounds amazing.
back at that beach again. Randy says he loves those E100 colors, especially how it renders them. So lots of film photographers here who've got some experience, so that's really great. And Dan is also on Ektachrome E100. So it's going to be interesting what the poll results bring. So make sure give us your vote so that we can see those results. But I think while we
I was just gonna say, I have a feeling that there's a lot of people who have shot in this audience that have shot slide film.
Yeah, I think so too, or just film in general.
Yeah.
But while we're waiting on that, we are going to have a quick look at the sample images that Ritchie and I have, so that we can, you know, look at what the recipe gives us.
Yeah, and also I posted today on my Instagram account a picture I captured the other night at sunset using the X-Trans 2 version of Ektachrome 100SW on my Fujifilm X-T1. So it's worth checking out if you haven't been over to my Instagram account lately. This picture here was with the X-Trans 3 version, but on a newer X-T4 camera. And it's golden hour, not exactly sunset, but golden hour, and it you can see how it makes the picture warm and vibrant.
Yeah, and the sky is really nice and interesting and full of detail. Very, very nice there. Lots to look forward to. I also tried it indoors. Since it's got an auto-white balance, I always quite like to experiment with that, because I think if you are not necessarily into changing up a lot of recipes, but you want to use one and you move around your inside and outside, then it's quite useful to have a recipe that reproduces good colors indoors as well. So Ektachrome is your friend here and produces really nice.
You can see how vibrant those like pinks and stuff are in there.
Yes, very nice indeed.
And then another cactus. I'm in Arizona now, so gotta capture the saguaros and stuff. And so this interesting saguaro, where the bottom half of it is look like it's seen better days. It turned out pretty well, I think, with this recipe.
Yes, it did. Well, not one of those, but a protea, which occurs around here, which is an absolutely beautiful tree. For people who don't know that and they only know the flower, this is what it looks like before it stands in a vase. Yeah, and that was on a hike recently, And yeah, I used it in an overcast situation. The sky has a little bit more detail on the actual photograph than it shows here, but it just shows the really nice rich colors and the detail of the image.
Yeah, and it shows how it works on an overcast day as well.
Yeah.
I chose this picture specifically because the lighting was really strange. It was indoors. It was just like the craziest weird artificial light situation that you could find yourself in. And I thought, hey, let's try this recipe because it uses the auto white balance. A lot of the early recipes use the auto white balance because I wanted them to be versatile. Then I got a lot of feedback that was like, well, if you want to be really mimicking film, then maybe avoid auto white balance. And so then I create a bunch of recipes that didn't. But then the feedback I got from that was that, well, these recipes aren't very versatile. And so, I try and give a mix, at least some that maybe are more versatile than others. And this is a recipe that has that versatility. You could see that it handled that really strange lighting situation fairly well.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, a nice mix and match of all sorts of different situations. Obviously, my cheeky dog can't hold back. He has to sneak in there somewhere. And yeah, I just really liked how the greens are so very prominent, and then his orange collar that he wears, and the color of the water and whatever. So just a really nice recipe also if you're out and about traveling or just on a day out or something. A really nice recipe to give a try and to give different scenes a nice look.
Yeah.
And that is Ektachrome 100SW.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys in the audience use this film simulation and the pictures that you guys capture with it. We kind of had a little bit limited variety. I guess we had a couple indoor, we had a couple overcast, and a couple like golden hour. But it'll be really interesting to see what you guys do with it. So I'm looking